just gonna say it. I had a terrific morning at church. I learned a lot. Did you know that back in the day, gay best friends were called apostles? And Grace, you'll be interested to know, Mary Magdalene is a derivative of the Latin word Hagdalene.
You're gonna hate Leviticus.
Our religion has a lot of beautiful, profound ideas that only work if you don't look at them too closely.
Attacks on the Christian faith in one form or the other seem to be on the rise these days. But would the world be better off without Christian influence?
When you look at the positive things Christianity has done to honor their Savior in Jesus Christ, then you see that there are a lot of historical benefits that come to people on all the various levels of life, in their personal life, the meaning of the family, certainly the power of the church, and the progress of civilization.
Jesus is the force that has created the modern world.
If Jesus had never been born, we would have lost hospitals, we would have lost education, we would have lost the right for people to make their own way and make their own living. All of the benefits that we've seen in society today come from the fact that we live in a culture that was civilized by the gospel of Jesus Christ, which recognized the rights of men under God to do things that would help them to succeed and to care for one another, care for the sick and the homeless and the needy.
Because of the love of Jesus, hospitals were first created. Even to this day, many hospitals have names like Holy Cross or Baptist Hospital, reflecting their Christian origins. And many deeds of charity continue to be done around the world because of the love of Jesus in the human heart.
Well, as much as government has grown, people particularly, in the surveys, Pew Research and others have shown that the more conservative you are and regular churchgoer you are, the more likely you are to give to charity. The more secular you are, the less likely you are to go to church, the more you think government should do it. And this is the Leviathan mindset of government. Those who put their faith in government instead of God think, we'll let government take care of these problems. We'll pay a tax to the government, and that alleviates us of any burdens.
Another example of Christian influence was the positive impact on government. This can especially be seen in the creation of America. Biblical principles applied to the state, said the 14th century reformer John Wycliffe, would ultimately lead to government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
America is the first nation built on the concept of individual self-government. That's Christ's form of government. And it's to demonstrate to the world the power of Christ to establish such a thing. It's a political miracle.
The folks who came to New England came to be a shining city on a hill. And as the great historian Sidney Mead has said, we're the nation with the soul of a church. The Puritans are the definers of our national soul. We still see ourselves as that New Jerusalem, a shining city on a hill, to light the way for the old world.
Even modern science has Christian origins. The founders of virtually every branch of science were Christians who believed that a rational God had created a rational universe, and it was their job, as His servants, to discover the laws that He had built into His own creation. But today, science is viewed as being somehow anti-God.
The heavens and earth declare the glory of God. You either have something out of nothing, which in any logical way of thought is checking your brain at the door, or something that is so greater than the something you see in the visible realm that He must be so awesome that I really need to discover how He's done this. Thus, science. Science only illustrates and demonstrates how awesome God is.
All of these things are just the tip of the iceberg of examples of the incredibly positive impact of Jesus, who has transformed our world. About 100 years ago, author James Russell Lowell said, "I challenge any skeptic to find a 10-square-mile spot on this planet where they can live their lives in peace and safety and decency, where womanhood is honored, where infancy and old age are revered, where they can educate their children, where the gospel of Jesus Christ has not gone first to prepare the way."
The Bible is not just about my soul going to heaven. It begins with the creation. It explains who I am, why I'm here, what society is all about, how we should live, what sex is and what marriage is and what love is and what government is and what law is and what the relationship of parents and children ought to be.
Without Jesus, we would have a brutal, miserable world. With Jesus, the world is a lot better.